I need to use 0-hour contracts for peak periods. Are there any tips?
Yes, the key point really is making sure you get the contract right, and this is well drafted and reflects the arrangements you have in place with your workers. If you get this right, then it is possible to avoid the workers having employment status and building up continuity of service. And this is important, as if that's the case, then you won't be facing unfair dismissal claims at the point the relationship comes to an end. But once you've got your contract in place, you do need to make sure that your practical arrangements with your workers do not diverge from the terms of that contract. So when we're thinking about what are the appropriate terms of the contract, what we would expect to see, for example, is there being no obligation on the worker to accept work from the business. They're free to decline it. If they do decline it, there's no comeback on them for doing so. And also they're free to work elsewhere during periods of downtime. Internally, we would also recommend that you do maintain a distinction between your employees and your workers, including those on 0 hours contracts. So for example, a common error we see is workers and those on 0 hours contracts being labelled in internal memos or emails as being employees. We need to avoid that. Also, we should consider whether we can distinguish between the two groups by making some benefits available only to employees, for example, car parking spaces, mobile phones, and not to those on 0 hours contracts. I think a key point that's arisen over the last couple of weeks is that as a business, you really need to be considering how best you're going to manage any reputational risk. There's been a huge consumer backlash against these practices, and we've seen big organisations such as McDonald's, Sports Direct feel the full force of this. So it is a real risk. We need to consider that up front because it might affect our decision as to whether we're going to engage in using 0 hours contracts or not. And if we do, we put in place an action plan of how we would manage that. You know, at the end of the day, this is very much in the public eye at the moment. The Coalition are reviewing the use of 0 hours contracts. They're under intense pressure from Labour at the moment. We're in a country where we've got a national minimum wage, and this may well be the start of a move towards national minimum hours.